full background.
Right? I think we should be on YouTube Live, I believe. Let me just double check on our YouTube channel. For all of you, if we are live right now, I do apologize. We are trying to figure this out, but we welcome you in either way. All right, we are live. So, welcome everybody into the place to be. You know what it is. This is our fantasy football channel where we talk dynasty. I am Dennis Rodriguez and Chef. This is Anthony Lukasik. He is also known as Vatera to some of you. We're welcoming him in for the first time. He's going up against you in some of your leagues, so you better watch out. The Sharks coming to talk today. How are you, Tony?
Hey, how's it going, bud? Good to be here.
All right. Well, so figured I'd ask first how you been, how life is treating you.
Oh, super busy, you know me. Always got something going on. Everything's been good. Looking forward to this weekend. I'm gonna get to go to the NIU game. I get to kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff there, and I'll be getting around. And it's just great to be able to get into the football world and great to be able to be here, man.
Awesome. Why don't you real quick tell the people why you are going to NIU, what it is that you are doing over there for those people?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, you know, basically right after high school, I did the military thing, right? And so since then, I've been kind of doing the civilian workforce thing and kind of on the side hustle, working towards becoming getting into the football industry. I've always wanted to be a scout, and so it's been a city grind of working towards that for years now. And taking courses and doing all sorts of stuff. I actually just got an internship at Northern Illinois University as a football scout for them. And so yeah, so it was, today was first day on campus, officially working for them, and it was great. It was such a joy. Yeah, I've never gone to work before and actually like enjoyed my work like that. 2 hours seemed like 30 minutes. It was crazy.
That's really cool.
It just felt like it was what I was meant to be doing. It was just another world, just another reality. And so it's crazy and Yeah,
Mm.
it's
So
great. And
today was
you know, I've done some of the podcasting on the side too as well for multiple different channels, and it's great to be joining this one and contributing everything I got.
awesome. That is really cool. Proud to hear that. And it is for those of you that are interested in just getting into the scouting world, you can always ask Anthony here some questions. He can kind of walk you through what he's experiencing and how it's going for him. So he's definitely learning on the fly right now, but he's going to be our expert for sure. All right. So we're going to get into some of the week 5 games. We want to kind of touch base on them. For any of you who didn't get to see them, we'll just kind of update you real quick on what was important, knock out some injuries, and then we'll give you some of our hot takes on maybe who you should be trying to buy and sell right now. If you got any questions, comments, you can obviously throw them in the chat. We love to be annoyed, so feel free to bother us because we will throw you some good information when you throw us good questions. All right. So, Tony, you want to walk us through some of these games?
Yeah, let's go through our recap here. Let's try to hit this in 10 minutes or less. Speed through these. So let's start with the Thursday's game. Chicago in Washington, 40-20. The Bears trounced them, huh? So let's go to our fantasy relevant players here. Fields had himself a game, 15 of 29, 282 yards, 4 TDs, 11 carries. He finally did get some design QB runs in this one.
Mm-hmm.
57 yards on the ground. We'd like to see him do a little bit better, but hey, not a bad game from Justin Fields. It was a really good turnaround to see. Khalil Herbert got injured in this one. It was a high ankle sprain, I believe.
Yeah,
Does that sound right? Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, and so options within at running back in that one. I think Roshan went out with a concussion. He's still being evaluated for that. Khalil Herbert did not practice today with his ankle. Look out for Deonta Foreman coming into the next one. DJ Moore was everything and anything. DJ Moore, Cole show. I'm actually going to be talking about Mel Mooney here a little bit later. Flipping over to the other side of the ball, Sam Howell actually had a good game because of garbage time. Didn't look that great in the first half, but in the second half put up some numbers: 388, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Only 4 carries in this one for 19 yards. This kid usually likes to scoot. That usually does help boost his numbers. Antonio Gibson did okay on the ground. In half point PPR, he put up 8.4 points, which is kind of a decent game for him. Brian Robinson did have a down game, only 6 carries for 10 yards total. Just Washington was just down the entire time in this one. Curtis Samuel was led the receiver room in this one. 6 receptions on 7 targets for 65 yards and a tutty. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, 3 catches and 4 catches. So a little bit of a rough one for some of these options here. But Logan Thomas, this was my tight end start of the week last week. Love to see it. 9 catches on 11 targets for 77 yards, a touchdown. Did lose a fumble, but other than that, Thomas had himself a great game. I've loved Thomas all season. Eric Bieniemy's offense runs through the tight end. If Logan Thomas is on your waiver wires, folks, go pick him up. Anything to add here, Den?
Yeah, so Travis Homer also went down in that game. We are thinking Roshan is probably going to be back in time with the 10-day break, but we'll see. Like most of them are going at least a game out with concussion protocol. So you might be right with Foreman just being the guy. Other than that, yeah, Brian Robinson wasn't a part of the game script at all. He really wasn't. The game got out of hand so quick. Antonio Gibson just kind of got a few balls, so it might stay that way if their offense keeps struggling. Brian Robinson might just keep getting pushed off to the side, and Antonio Gibson might actually come to value what we were hoping.
It was this defense that was an uncharacteristical performance. They have a pretty vaunted defense there. Chase Young and Montez Sweat are great. You got Robinson in the interior there. They got some players. It was weird to see them give up so much so fast early in the game.
Yeah.
I expect them to have a little bit better of a week next week. I believe that they have the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons are only averaging about 16 points per game, I believe. And so this should be a much more close game in which you should see them operate more as they have been, pretty much the rest of the first few weeks of the season.
Sorry, I was just getting a notification that's saying the meeting's going to end for Zoom in 7 minutes. So I don't know if that means that
I
we can
hope.
just, yeah, I don't know if I just need
Can
to
you
call
extend
you.
it?
It says I have to pay for it. So maybe I just end it and just call it back. I don't know. I think it was because I was sitting in the
Oh,
room by
possibly.
myself.
I hope that
Either
doesn't
way,
end our live stream.
yeah.
I
Well,
guess we'll
either
find
way,
out.
we'll go. If it does, like you just call me right back on it. We'll just knock out what we can real quick still in the games. Let's
Sure.
just speed through them. That's our timer.
Stay tuned for a possible interruption.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Jacksonville and Buffalo in London. I believe Buffalo is actually technically the home team in this one.
hmm
Uh, Trevor Lawrence, man, he's been struggling in this Doug Peterson offense so far this season, but they did manage to come out with the win here. They pretty handily, honestly, from what I saw. Buffalo just never seemed to really just get into the game here. 25-20, Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, 25 completions on 37 attempts, did put up over 300 yards, but man, 3 fumbles, 2 of them lost. Just not good ball security. Kind of looks in over his head a little bit sometimes out there. But Travis Etienne, good gracious. 26 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, did squeak in a 2-point conversion, and then added another 4 receptions for 48 yards. So Travis Etienne has been on fire most of the season. Will have his down games. He's a very boomer bust play. I was expecting Peterson to really utilize his backfield by committee approach. He brought in Dearness Johnson over the offseason. He's been invisible. Drafted Tank Bigsby. He's been invisible. JaMychal Hasty was supposed to be something on this squad. Hasn't been getting any work. Thankfully, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's what you would expect. And so it's been a little bit odd. So, enjoy the ETM production while we have it. Hopefully, his workload doesn't decrease too much as the season goes by. I'm just skeptical on this lasting for too much longer. Calvin Ridley did have a nice little bounce back game. 7 catches on 8 targets. That was pretty good. 122 yards. Put up over 17 points in a half-point PPR. Christian Kirk continues to be a PPR machine. Another 8 targets in this one. Zay Jones actually had a decent one, but only because of the touchdown. So it seems to be the case that it's going to continue here where you're really only going to see 2 of the 3 wide receivers produce, and it's going to kind of vary between the 3 of them. Mostly it's going to be Ridley and Kirk, but Zay's going to mix in there, and who he takes away from is going to be the question. It looks like Ingram's still always going to get his as well. Another 8 targets in this one, though he did only haul in 4 of them. And so, for all intents and purposes, that's how I would treat the pass catchers here in Jacksonville moving forward. I don't see that changing at any point this season. Moving over to the Buffalo side of the ball, Josh Allen still had a great fantasy day because, hey, it's Josh Allen. James Cook, that was a dudder. But again, Buffalo never really got into this, and so when a team can't get anything going offensively, it's the running back who's going to suffer every time. I still think James Cook is one of the best running backs to own in fantasy football, or I should say to manage. My bad. And for the receiving game, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis both feasted. Both of them over 100 yards. Both of them with a touchdown. And Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid are just kind of there. I think Kincaid took a concussion. Did he get a concussion in this one? Is this the one where he got hurt in?
I believe it is.
I want to say, yeah, he logged a limited practice today with a concussion, it looks like. And Dawson Knox is dealing with a wrist issue. And so tight ends are a little bit banged up there. So if you're kind of questioning whether or not you can start Gabe Davis next week against the Giants, that should be another big Gabe Davis week. He's been having a good season so far, 3 out of the last 4 weeks in double-digit points. So I see no reason why that shouldn't continue with the options there. Anything to add on this one, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, ETN does look explosive. I do like that. Cook, I feel like if you're playing into the explosion, you just want to believe Cook is the same. He just looks like he's got that burst himself. And yeah, Knox had a back injury he was recovering from as well, so they just keep adding up over there. Kincaid's gonna have to eventually like have a breakout, but right now, if you need other help, you can rely on. I would lean towards the older dudes to just try and fill that void.
For sure, for sure. So moving on to the next one, we got Houston visiting Atlanta. They went down 19-21, and Stroud did not look great in this game. He did have a few clutch passes I did like. I did like to see he's really improving out a lot of the knocks that he had over at Ohio State there. He had a really good ball over the top. And to be honest with you, he's not pulling. What's more important to me, he's not pulling the trigger on some of those ones where the safety over the top can come crashing down on it. That was one of his biggest weaknesses at Ohio State, was that he would always miss that, and he would try to squeeze that ball in there anyway, and end up taking a pick a lot of times. And so he's showing a lot more discipline. I gotta say, I'm impressed with his growth. I know it was kind of a dudder of a game. It was a little bit of tough sledding against this Atlanta team. This Atlanta team has really been showing up to play this season, and I've been really impressed with them so far. And so for Houston to struggle a little bit in this one, I don't find it surprising. In fact, I've been impressed with their play so far this season. I don't see why this game should deter you off of the good things that Houston has been putting forward this season. Stroud, Pierce, Nico, Tank, all had down games. Tank's got the concussion, obviously. And so that's part of the reason why his numbers weren't too great, because he got knocked out early. Dalton Schultz did have a good one for a tight end, 10 targets, 65 yards, and a touchdown. He's getting all those dinks and dunks, but he is getting utilization. And so I think you can continue to trust this offense. I would continue to trust the pieces. Next week is a tough matchup against New Orleans. New Orleans has got a great defense, but Houston plays hard at home. If you look at the splits, Houston's best numbers are at home, and they are at home next week against New Orleans. So I'm really interested to see how they handle that better defense at home, and see how that shakes out. That'll tell me where this Houston team really is at this season. But if you have just as good options with better matchups, yeah, sure, I would go ahead and bench Nico and Pierce and all that jazz, and Stroud. But otherwise, I would not be afraid to roll out my Houston options this week against New Orleans, because they are at home. On the other side of the ball, Desmond Ridder finally had himself a game. He looked good, huh? He looked good. Awesome. His ball placement was on point. It was nice to see. Finally pulling the trigger. 28 of 37, great accuracy this game. 329 in the tutty. Got another two-point conversion and ran in another touchdown himself. Really great game to see from Desmond Ridder. I'm hoping he's turned a corner as well. Bijan's Bijan. I wouldn't worry about too much about it. Drake London, I think I'm going to be talking about Drake London a little bit later too. Actually threw a completion for 22 yards in this one, but 9 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards. This kid looks like the real deal. Desmond Ridder's coming online. I think that Drake London is a really good candidate for a buy low right now. We'll go over that a little bit more in detail later. Tight end position, Kyle Pitts. Finally starting to see some wheels up from Kyle Pitts. Pretty steadily here over the last few weeks, sort of, or 2 out of the last 3 weeks, I should say. Had 9 targets 3 weeks ago. Only 4 targets against Jacksonville, but then bumped it up to back to 11 against Houston this past week. And so really starting to see some production out of him. Jonnu Smith's utilization still kind of weird to me.
Oh, so it did pause and interrupt us. But that's okay. All right, so while I reconnect with Tony, we will just real quickly. He was addressing that Jonnu Smith has been the main target, which has been weird, even though Pitts has been trying to. Pitts has been pretty much getting a lot of the targets lately, but Jonnu Smith was leading the charge. The idea is that I think that Pitts was just hurt. I think that that was the biggest thing, was that Pitts was hurt to start the year. Nobody really was paying attention to him being hurt. So that was the main reason why he started so slow. And which is okay. I mean, it's okay to like it's okay to want to lean on whoever's there, and the bet's the one that's pretty much the one to lean on right now. Let's see. Why? And I am not the most tech savvy, but we're getting this, and we'll bring him right back in. Okay. I see. Okay, well, I am joining him in a meeting real quick, and then we'll be right back to where we were. Do apologize, technical difficulties, but hey, they do happen. So, yeah, Jonnu Smith just seemed to be starting to get a lot of the balls thrown his way because mostly Pitts was hurt. As you see Pitts getting healthy, he's going to be the guy. All right. I think we are slowly getting ourselves here. All right. I believe we are back to where we were.
Yay!
Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
Okay, where's my camera? All right,
By five,
so,
boss.
all right, high five. All right,
Yay!
I believe we're still alive, so you can go ahead and hop back into the end of that game. I know I was kind of just touching to clarify for you that Jonnu I felt like was getting a lot of the targets because Pitts was injured to start the year, and so I feel like that is most of the reason as to why he was not getting a lot of the targets to start.
It's just weird to me that he was scripted, that John was scripted to be such a big part of the game, even in this one. And but no, you're right. And Kyle Pitts coming back from the knee injury, I think that he was a little bit more hobbled in the first quarter of the season than I think we might have been expecting, or really had even really talked about as in the fantasy football community.
Mhm.
And so he's starting these last few weeks. He's looking better and better each week. To be
I agree.
honest, he's moving better. It's actually noticeable. Yeah, yeah, you're right. And so John's utilization very much could have been just about that. Just bringing back Pitts slowly, you know. And so I'm hoping it's wheels up for Pitts and never looking back. Yeah, because it's been long enough. We've all been waiting so long.
Yep, and I also think that that buy window is pretty much gone.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro.
Probably.
Do you mean
And
this one, the
so,
one with titanium?
I mean, even
Switch
I
to
was
Verizon, you
considering
can trade
shopping
in
him a
any
couple
iPhone
weeks
and get the
ago.
new iPhone 15
So,
Pro on them.
It's your
all right, moving forward. Carolina visiting Detroit and great Guga Muga. This game I did watch in its entirety, and great, good lord, Carolina almost looked like they didn't show up to play. They look like they didn't belong in this field as the Lions. The Lions just flat out look like the incredibly better team. Most of the production you had this one from Carolina was garbage time, which I would expect to get a lot with this team, to be completely honest with you. Um,
Yep.
you know, Bryce Young almost made my buy low candidate list. Um, because you might have some drafters that draft him at the 101 and 2 QB in flex leagues that are starting to panic. You know, he looks okay, but his team it just looks like a dumpster fire. And to be honest with you, Frank Reich, did you see his veiled comments about meddling too much?
No.
And just how involved they are, basically. It's just, there's so much just bad juju around the Carolina Panthers right now. But that's not going to stay the case forever, right? Things are going to stabilize out. Young is actually a very talented, good young quarterback. He's shown a lot of good flashes on the field, to be honest. He's shown a lot of promise. His best receiver right now is Adam Thielen, guys, who's actually shelling out, right? And so if you saw Adam Thielen last year and you're going, where was this Adam Thielen then? You know what I mean? If Bryce Young was completely incompetent, he wouldn't be able to support him. Don't panic on Bryce Young. If you have him, don't sell him low. If you don't have him and you need a quarterback, maybe explore buying him. It's going to be a future play. It's not going to help you out this year, but it wouldn't be a bad option moving forward. Goff obviously had a huge game. Montgomery has been just slaying it for fantasy purposes. Craig Reynolds got some production in this one, and with the Jamar Gibbs missing time, with the injury, I'm not interested in Reynolds. He did put up a touchdown, which is where he got some of his points, but I'm not going to be rushing to waivers or trying to squeak him in the starting lineup. Josh Reynolds, though, Amon-Ra was down in this one with an abdomen injury. Josh Reynolds has that rapport with Jared Goff, and it almost seems frustrating on when you can start Josh Reynolds, right? Except it's not. When you can start Jared Goff at home in a plus matchup. He's very consistent that way. He's one of the few fantasy football players are thankfully that consistent. When you have to bench him when he's on the road. When you play him at home in a plus matchup. If he's got a good defense, maybe play him. It depends what kind of a pinch you're in, but it becomes much more of a question that way. When it start Jared Goff time as a streamer, that's when it start Josh Reynolds. Okay. And then Sam Laporta. I mean, if he doesn't look like the number one tight end in Dynasty right now, if Kyle Pitts didn't just put up the game that he had, I'd say it wouldn't even be a question. Laporta's number one Dynasty right now. Did you see anything else from this game?
So I think differently about Craig Reynolds, just only because that David Montgomery role is pretty much a role in that offense. And we saw that with Jamal Williams. They are going to put somebody in that position, and it's not going to be Jahmyr Gibbs just because he is too versatile in what he does. And I feel like if you're going to handcuff, it's worth handcuffing in Craig Reynolds because he's going to be more like a touchdown a game kind of guy to give you a safe floor. It's not going to be as high potentially as David Montgomery, but at least he's going to go in there and just pretty much get a touchdown each week, And then of course Marvin Jones, old man's ghost. I swear I picked him up all over the place thinking he would be relevant this year. Does nothing. It's Raymond and Josh Reynolds. And all of a sudden he starts getting some catches again. Who the hell decided to put him back out there again? I get it. You're running thin. But come on now. So other than that, yeah, I would just look into stashing Craig Reynolds. Laporta is the real deal. If you want him, it's going to cost you. Like, I would say you can try to buy him now before he fully blows up into what he's going to be, but he looks the
Cements
real
his
deal.
spot, yeah. For sure, for sure. Yeah, the only thing I would want to mention about Craig Williams is, yeah, I think it depends on your bench size, right? Like if you have a deep fantasy league and you have a lot of excess roster spots, if you're in one of those like dynasty leagues that has the shallower benches, like I think that one of the leagues that I'm in with you is just like a 10-person bench or something like that. It's a very tight bench for a dynasty roster.
It is, yeah.
Those are the places where I'm not looking at Craig Reynolds. I'm keeping it must haves only. But yes. Okay, so moving on, we have Tennessee visiting Indianapolis. Indianapolis pulls out this one, and what happened to Tennessee's vaunted run defense? Good God. I feel awful for all those Jonathan Taylor managers that had him on their IR, and they get him back, and they just rush him right into the lineup. Oh, that's a tough play, guys. When you have a running back like Zach Moss, who's been performing in the season the way that he has been in place of the starting running back, they're usually not going to rush a guy back from injury and just give him the full workload again. And so, with Zach Moss's production in this last game, I would love to say that was his beautiful farewell send off and it's the Jonathan Taylor show from here on out. But no, I don't think so. I think we're going to see Zach Moss get a lot of utilization next week against Jacksonville. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Moss leads the backfield next week or at least splits it 50-50 with Taylor. Right. I expect it to be somewhere close to around there. I think they're going to slowly bring Taylor back. I wouldn't say that it's going to get to the 70-30 point for a little while yet. We should see some indication next week. And so personally, if you don't have to, I don't want to play Taylor. Josh Downs is an interesting candidate. 6 receptions on 6 targets for 97 yards, no touchdowns, but the guy showed out. The guy looked great. And he's got 3 more weeks, a minimum, with Gardner Minshew, the Magic Mustache Man. What do you think?
I think Josh Downs is actually just finally coming into his own, and I'm pretty sure that
finally he's a rookie.
Well, but this it felt like he was gonna just kind of step into the role as like a JSN from my point of view because they needed someone for those crossing routes, someone to just kind of keep the chains moving. Essentially, with Pittman being the hybrid there, and then Pierce just pulling Forrest Gump routes, just running, just running. It just felt like they needed somebody, to do something different. So I thought Downs was going to step into that role right away. Maybe it was the offense that kind of was a little difficult to understand at first. But yeah, I think he's now a permanent PPR staple. Shoot, he might be our Jarvis Landry,
I like that a lot. I remember watching Josh Downs, and during the combine, I kind of almost had him and Zay Flowers side by side. I was watching them almost side by side. And to me, it was who do you prefer, one or the other? And actually, I liked Downs better than Zay Flowers. I'm watching them at the combine. And Downs his cuts are faster, his hands are better, his bend is better. He can make those quicker cuts a lot better. He might not have the long speed that Zay Flower has, the foot speed, but he's fast enough, and he's fast enough to get in space. He's got the separation speed. Absolutely love Josh Downs coming out in this year's draft. I love the landing spot for A-Rich. Because he's going to need someone on those underneath routes. You're right. I love him in the Jarvis Landry role for this team. Absolutely. Great comp.
Yeah, and then other than that, I mean, they're using their tight ends for everything. And it's like right now they're struggling at tight end. So if you have space on IR especially, please add Jelani Woods to your team. Please stash him. 6'7" athletic dude. They're throwing the ball to that guy a ton. Please stash him.
They got a room full of gigantors, man. Moelle Cox, Jelani Woods, and Ogletree too.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of crazy. Granson, don't they have Kylan Granson?
Yeah, he's actually the starter right now.
He's pretty huge too.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
6'5".
like they just got a room full of monsters over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Before we move on, I do want to touch on this other side of the ball here. I wouldn't normally like to talk about the Titans too much, but D-Hop came back and had himself a game and looked good doing it for like the first time in like a year and a half, 2 years. Honestly, like he's been looked kind of old lately, and he looked like old DeAndre Hopkins. I guess he looked like old DeAndre Hopkins. But yeah, how'd you
Double
think of that
O.
one? To me, it was Tannehill. Tannehill actually looked on point on this,
Yeah, the offense just looked better. Also, they were
throwing Hopkins.
blocking better. Yeah. Uh, I feel like also you got to consider that. Are you okay, buddy? I didn't expect to do like a whole flip off of the window. Uh,
Oh, dog
I
will take
also
a bit.
yeah, but Treylon Burks has been out and been injured, and they have no
Mm,
second wide receiver. Chig is pretty much the wide receiver, and he's just now starting to play better because the offense was
mm.
still trying to be force fed through D Hop early and Burks before his injury. So Kyle Phillips coming off of IR, does he start to filter in because it seems like Burks is not coming back anytime soon? I don't even know what you do with Burks other than just hold him, I guess, because he's just been hurt 2 years in a row. Um, what's the other one? Naheem Himes Westbrook or something like that? I'm putting Naheem
Westbrook
Himes.
Akine.
I'm putting Naheem
Yeah,
Himes in there just for no
Nick
reason. I don't
Nick
know.
Westbrook Akine.
Yeah,
This is a kid I've kind of liked. He's got some talent, but he just hasn't been a consistent producer.
yeah. So what do you do with the Tennessee offense? I mean, if there's a defense that they're going against that has bad secondary, sure, start D-Hop and just expect another like 13 target game, 10 reception, 80 yards, maybe a touchdown, you know?
Yeah, it's what you do with Derrick Henry that I think is the real question because he had another down week again this week. Very inefficient, didn't look good, no blocking,
Yep.
couldn't get out of the backfield without getting hit. Derrick Henry's no good if he can't build up speed.
Yep.
So, with Baltimore, the Colts were not supposed to be a great run defense. The Baltimore coming up next week, then you got the bye week, and then you do got a great run defense in Atlanta. You got Tampa Bay coming up a couple weeks after that. The future looks very grim here for Derrick Henry, who's only 29 years old, but are we witnessing the cliff? Is he currently toppling over?
I think in Tennessee, yes. But I don't know that he
I think so.
necessarily is like beyond his years. I think if they don't I think what that's going to happen is they're going to split his carries a little bit more over the next few games. If they end up keeping themselves in contention, they're just going to run him until the sun's down and he's going to make his exit there. So I would still try to buy Derrick Henry if you can get him for cheap now. You do have to anticipate some big games later on. It, not as many, but I'm still leaning into trying to have him at least next year. Shoot, if I can, I'm buying Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. I'll buy some Desperados on their last run out, and bring those guys into next year because right now they're so affordable.
I am very interested to see what Derrick Henry does in the second half of the season. I think that we could see a very big second half of the season from Derrick
Hmm.
Henry and see him
Agreed.
look like Derrick Henry again. I feel like it's possible that they're just kind of like keeping him in a harness and just holding him back. You know what I mean? Tajay has been getting a lot of work. You are right there. Um, so question for you then. You got Derrick Henry on your roster, you're a competing team. You open up your phone and you got a trade offer, Joe Mixon for Derrick Henry straight up. Do you take it?
Uh, I'm keeping Derrick Henry. He's got the higher ceiling than Mixon.
So you'd still keep him over Mixon. Okay, that's a pretty good spot to be in. That's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, if my
Let's
team
see
needs the
here.
points week to week, I mean, you're going to get a safer floor out of Mixon because he's at least getting you runs and receptions each week. Not a lot, but the ceiling on Derrick Henry is still going to be like 25, 30 points, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that ceiling is in James Cook.
Would you trade Derrick Henry for a James Cook right now?
Yeah, I think I'm taking James Cook.
I think I'm taking James Cook too.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
hasn't
All right, so
broken out.
there's kind of the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking at shopping Derrick Henry, I might do that now. If you're not 100% like one of the top 3 teams in your league and very clearly making it deep into the playoffs, I might consider shopping Derrick Henry for any good young running back talent that you can get at this juncture in your league.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. What do we got here? We got the well, I'm on the wrong week. Excuse me. Hold up. I clicked around and I lost my place. Oh no. New York Giants in Miami. Miami crushed them. Surprise, surprise. Devin A-Chain. That's the guy that I want to talk about. Because holy crap. I don't even know where to start. I mean, so this kid is 5'9", 188 pounds listed at, right? Misses the first couple weeks of the season due to injury. Comes in 3 games, averages what, over 13 yards a touch. It has a total of, I think, what is that, 7 touchdowns in 3 games. Just the most impressive 3-game series to start any individual's career, and over 100 yards each game. Nobody can touch this kid. And I get that he's fast. I've seen a lot of speed all over the league, but this guy he can read the field, he can read the holes, he hits them without hesitation. This kid he can fly, he can straight up fly. But now he's hurt again, and that's the other side of that sword, right? Because of his size, that's going to be an issue. Because the speed and the force and the torque that he plays with, his knees are going to take some damage. What do you do with this kid?
I mean, it's kind of the same idea as Puka, right? Like they're setting records. Do you really want to just get rid of them
Puka's
at
at least
this
been able to
point?
stay on the field, and there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't. I'm sorry, Achan. I do have some concern about his durability
Well,
and his availability.
Puka had injury history all throughout college. So this is like his first time really being healthy. But like, I mean, you just don't want to get rid of those people that are setting records. Like if I don't know how many people you see run on a professional field and have all the other professionals fall around them. I don't know how often you see people not get touched on the football field. That's some rare stuff.
It just doesn't happen like this. It
Mm,
just doesn't. You're right. You are 100% right. And so are you buying, selling, or just holding?
you buy in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks when that team is really struggling because they got him to help be a contender. You buy him then to see if you can give them something that's going to help them, but you give him to you for cheap. I mean, if I have him, I'm holding because the unknown. Because what if Mostert and Wilson move off next year and it's just Devon Achan and whoever else, Ahmed or Brooks or some whatever veteran they bring. Maybe they bring in Dalvin Cook or somebody like that just to kind of teach him or take some licks. There's a ceiling that we could hit every week of like 30, 40, 50 points from this dude. You can't get rid of it right now. And if you do, it's for like, I want a first and ETN.
Holy goodness. I
Yeah.
was gonna give you the James Cook example. I was gonna say you open up your phone and you look and there's James Cook sitting in as a trade offer for HN right there in your box. I'm sorry, I'm slamming it for the real running back. I'm taking James Cook.
Just
Easy
straight
peasy
up?
over HN. Oh yeah. Oh
Oh.
yeah. No qualm about, no worry, no concern. Absolutely. I'm taking the real running back every time.
I mean, but that offense is so good and potent, and you know they're running. So
But
the
you can't
Bills,
trust that week to week, unless that's your flex play. Unless Achane is your flex play, and are you paying a first round pick in Travis Etienne for a flex? This is a guy who, is he really going to show up every game every year? There's no way. There's no way this kind of production holds steady.
I mean, there's
I
probably
just I
none.
just don't see this being the real deal.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, we do.
So yeah, no, it's just about like, what do you value in fantasy football? Do you want that
We
big
can do the steak
excited
still.
explosiveness, or are you the kind of fantasy football manager that really likes to have something consistent that
Okay,
you
if
can
you want to
rely
grab
on in
something,
your
then
starting
I guess we
lineups?
can do that
And
then.
so those are the kind of choices that you need to be making.
Um,
Uh,
Whatever.
Around this game, outside of the Achan in this game, Tyreek Hill, of course, had his big game. Jalen Waddle did get a touchdown to salvage his game, but he only ended up with 35 yards in this one.
Let me text you that because we're live
on the other side of the ball, the only real fantasy football producer was Darren Waller getting a squeaky wheel game. Oh, you're so sweet. You're too sweet. You're beautiful. You're cute.
Yeah.
So Darren Waller did come away with 11 targets in this one. Could you at least mute your microphone while you talk so I can continue going?
I was trying to figure that out, but then she was yelling to tell YouTube hi. So she was like, "Hey, I want YouTube to know that I'm saying hi." So
no.
Says hello.
No, we're recording, woman. We're recording. This is business. This is professional. And so Darren Waller coming away with 86 yards on 11 targets, 8 receptions. Finally had a squeaky wheel game. Thank goodness. Caution, this was against one of the worst tight end defenses in the NFL for fantasy football purposes. Notoriously. The Miami, for whatever reason, just doesn't care about guarding the tight end in games. They don't care. And so for years now. So I am not quite convinced that Darren Waller is back and he's here to stay, baby, because he does have Buffalo, Washington, and Jets coming back up. And so if you can move him for a decent price now, I probably would. I would definitely consider doing that. Coming up here in 4 weeks, he's got Las Vegas, but then he's got Dallas and Washington again, and then New England, and then a bye week. I mean, realistically, you're going all the way down to week 14, and then, oh, by the way, you're playing Green Bay, which is fine, but then New Orleans, Philly, I'm good. I'm out. I'm going to use this one big game, and I'm shopping there. Anything to add from this one, buddy?
Well, he also left with a groin injury, so you want to make sure that you're mindful of that.
I'll take whatever I get. I'll stream if I have to.
Yeah,
I'll take anything that helps my roster. Anything that's a real player, a real asset that I can put into my starting lineup legitimately, I'll take.
Yeah, this is
even if it's only in a pinch.
It's a buy opportunity for Bellinger, for sure, in this situation because of the groin injury, though. But I would be selling
their
Waller.
Schedule kind of sucks too, and Daniel Jones has been awful. He's been awful.
Oh well, yeah,
it's not a team looking to bet on, man. It's just
but what are you paying for Bellinger? A fourth, some fob, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, I mean, I would do that all day long.
If you want to buy him for nothing now, I did. I bought him for actually. I had the same call, the same take. Just
they're gonna be pretty much running play action all day, and so that's gonna be the main thing that opens up the game for the tight ends again.
For sure. All right, I'm starting to run a little short on time here, so I do want to speed through the rest of these here. So we're going to go into turbo mode. New Orleans shut out New England. What a game that was, huh? I don't know what New England's going to do moving forward. Do you have anything to say about this Patriot team? Because I sure shit don't.
They just need to
field marking wrong. Ingram was incredibly amazing for fantasy purposes during his stint when Kamara was first up and coming with New Orleans in his rookie year, but it looks like we're seeing that just flipped. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Beyond that, I'm not too worried about Chris Olave. Mike Thomas did what I would expect him to do. I would expect his 4 of 7 for 65 to be just about. Those are the Michaeliest Thomas of numbers that you're going to see. That's what you're going to expect for this season. And then I'm not looking at anything for the tight ends between the two teams. I mean, Hunter Henry, fool's gold earlier in the season, right? I was saying same thing as last year, right? So if you were able to move him, you were able to sell him, cool. If not, sorry, sucks to suck. Moving on. Baltimore visiting Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh with the upset. Huh? How do you like that?
End of the game.
Man? Those Pickett still looks like crap. It's awful. It's so bad. He's so bad.